continues to recover from whatever minor knee surgery he had. And they'll probably also be without Adam Thielen again this week offensively, because why not give him a chance to get totally healthy? And I know that Coach Zim has said, hey, when guys are healthy, they're going to play. But I think the smart move with Thielen and with Joseph is give them another 2 weeks in this case because of the bye week next week, and then get them ready for Seattle.
Well, let's talk about the bye week, and let's talk about the NFC North. Very interesting match between the Rams and the Bears. First, we do want to thank B52 Burgers and Brew.
Yeah, B52 Burgers and Brew, Inver Grove Heights. Terrific restaurant, and also the restaurant in Lakeville, and that's our home of Monday Night Purple on News Talk 830 WCCO, and had a great show the other night with Irv Smith Jr. and Afadio Denabo, and both had a big role in the win in Dallas, and so it was a fun show and a full house as always over at B52 in Inver Grove Heights on Monday Night Purple, and our next show will be next Monday night, and still figuring out who's going to be there, but we'll have a couple of the Vikings players there, and look forward to that show too, and we'll talk about the Broncos game and look ahead to the bye week, and after the bye week, talk a little bit about Seattle and the Seahawks, which can be a huge Monday night matchup, and just talk NFL hot topics. I encourage everyone to get to B52 Burgers and Brew, Inver Grove Heights and Lakeville. Terrific menu of 25 varieties of burgers and great entrees and appetizers, and B52 has Monday night specials and a fantastic Sunday brunch, a great rooftop patio when the weather's nice, maybe not so much this time of year, but definitely in the spring. So check out their website, b52burgersandbrew.com, and hope to see you at B52 for Monday Night Purple. Are you surprised at all that John Elway has had so much trouble finding or developing a quarterback? Because really the only success he's had running the Broncos is when Peyton Manning pretty much chose the Broncos, and the year they won the Super Bowl was more because of a running game and Kubiak and a great defense and Wade Phillips than because of the quarterback. Yeah, and Von Miller, who's still there. Yes. And so he's a force to be reckoned with still. And so is Wolf, their defensive end. They've got some pretty good players on that team, and still, but yeah, I think it is surprising, and I think it's a black mark on John Elway as an executive that he has not been able to draft quarterbacks, develop quarterbacks, and you think of guys like Paxton Lynch that he had there in a first-round pick who was a bust, and so that's, I think, a concern has to be for the Broncos ownership as they try to figure out what's going to happen in the future, and now they have the signing in the offseason, Joe Flacco, which I can't say I was ever really excited about that move. I don't even think Joe Flacco was excited about that one. Yeah, and Joe Flacco has been a decent quarterback in his career, but at this stage of his career, put a bunch of money in him. I didn't think that made a lot of sense. And so now then Flacco goes down for the year, and here they have Brandon Allen, who did win his first game as a starter against Cleveland, but threw for under 200 yards. It wasn't about him. It was more about the defense in that particular game, and so we'll see how it shakes out in the future in Denver. But you have to think that he'll be looking in the first round again next year, because it is a pretty deep quarterback class coming out. But yeah, the Denver Broncos, I think that's been a problem for them for a long time. Absolutely. Hey, remember, we have a deal with Bite Squad, bitesquad.com, Bite Squad, the app. Use the promo code TalkNorth to get your first delivery fee waived. After that, go to bitesquad.com to see what kind of deal they have in your area. Morning, noon, night, late night, snack time, home, office, elsewhere, bitesquad.com, promo code TalkNorth. So, interesting matchup, Rams and Bears this weekend. And I think, but when we were talking right before the show started, you called it kind of almost an elimination game. Yeah, I think it really is. I think in the case of the Rams or the Bears, it would put the Bears at 4-6, and that's a tough hole to climb out of. Almost have to run the table, especially when the Packers and the Vikings are two of the best teams in the NFL right now. That's right, and so I think that for the Bears, they've got to win this game, and I think the Rams are close to the same boat. They're one of the more disappointing teams in the NFL this year, coming off an NFC championship last year, and Jared Goff seems to have regressed, and Sean McVay has lost his golden boy luster. Yeah, what the heck? And so their offense is struggling, and Gurley's not doing much, and so, yeah, you wonder about the Rams, what's going on there, and I know Brandon Cooks has been out for a little bit, and that's hurt their offense, and so I think, to me, it has all the earmarks of a kind of an elimination game. For whoever loses this game is going to have a tough sledding. And you look at the Rams, as the Bears have the Vikings and Packers to look up at, the Rams are looking up at the Seahawks and 49ers in their division. And the NFC is loaded, and you got Philadelphia and Dallas to deal with. And so I think it's going to be one of those years where you may have to win 11 games to get in the playoffs even. And 10-6 might not be good enough. And so, yeah, for those two teams, really a critical game this week.
Might have been during the Ravens-Patriots game. They said something that really jumped out at me. I think Collinsworth was saying that he was talking to John Harbaugh, and John Harbaugh said, I'm not an offensive guru. I don't have an offensive playbook. So when Lamar Jackson was available to us, I just said, give me a good football player, and we'll make it work. I love that. How many NFL teams have we seen pass up on either a chance to get Kaepernick or a chance to take a great athlete at quarterback because, not a pure pocket passer or whatever the cliche is. What's amazing, and it wasn't that long ago, maybe around the time of Michael Vick, when anytime you praised a quote-unquote running quarterback, you got 800, tweets or emails saying they can't play in the NFL. You have to be a pocket passer to win the NFL. I'm sorry, look at some of the best Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson might be the two most valuable players in the league right now. Patrick Mahomes is right there when he's healthy. And these aren't necessarily running quarterbacks, but quarterbacks who can be mobile, who can extend plays, and who can run as a bonus. With Lamar Jackson's even more of a pure running back. It's crazy that the NFL resisted the idea of having a good athlete at quarterback for so long.
Yeah, and it really says there's no set formula on how you get it done at quarterback. The Vikings are doing it with Kirk Cousins, who has shown more mobility this year, getting outside the pocket, on the perimeter, and occasionally even running, but that's not his strengths, clearly. And you look at players such as Peyton Manning and a Tom Brady and a Drew Brees, who have been very successful as drop-back quarterbacks in the league. And I think Mahomes kind of brings a mix of those two. But, yeah, Russell Wilson, just such a gamer and makes plays, and overtime the other night against San Francisco and finds a way to get it done. And his offensive line isn't great, but he's getting it done. And I think Lamar Jackson is just such a special athlete, such a special player, and he's improving as a passer all the time. And give credit to John Harbaugh and Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, for being willing to kind of go against the grain with Lamar Jackson and design an offense that takes advantage of his skill set. And he truly is a running quarterback because he's averaging 80 yards a game rushing, and he's just having a spectacular year with the Ravens. So I think that shows that, as I said, there's no tried and true formula. Just find a guy that you think can get it done and build the system around them and make it work. And so I'll give Kevin Stefanski and Gary Kubiak props for what they've done with Cousins this year, because it looked after week 4 like, wow, this thing is going in the tank, and what an amazing turnaround. And you know that those guys have worked really hard with him, and obviously you give Cousins credit too for having the fortitude to withstand the criticism and turn his season around, which he has done to a great extent. And I think Sunday night in Dallas was another big stepping stone for him as a quarterback, with the primetime stuff and with the winning team on the road that he beat. And so that, I think, was a really important win for Kirk Cousins too.
Let's wrap up the show. You have, with the bye week, they're going to play the Broncos. They're going into a bye. And you mentioned, again, in our prep work here, that you used to have kind of concerns about how teams would enter and exit the bye. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I think it was always a big concern of mine in terms of the focus of the players. Are they thinking about getting out of town, getting away from the cold weather, getting out to California or Florida or whatever during this week off? And so it's, I think, a challenge for the coaching staff to get the players focused so they can have a big effort against Denver at home. I think that'll happen. Getting back home after a couple of tough road games will kind of give them some juice. I think the crowd will be amped up because of what's going on, not only with the Vikings, but the Gophers. Is such a great football time right now in the city and state with what's going on. And so I think there'll be a great atmosphere at US Bank Stadium on Sunday for the Broncos game. But yeah, I was always concerned about the bye week and the focus and so forth. And especially when you're playing a team such as Denver, following up on a game like Dallas, and you're looking ahead to Seattle on a Monday night after the bye. got to be careful about these games. And Denver, as I said, comes in with a number 4 defense in the league, still Von Miller. All of a sudden, he forces a fumble or does something like that, and things can turn around in a hurry. And we saw that against Buffalo last year. So the Vikings have avoided that kind of a game this year. But look what goes on around this NFL, and the Saints lay an egg against Atlanta last week, and so things can happen. Got to be careful, and I think that'll be the challenge. But to me, I think the really interesting part of what's going on right now is when you think 2 weeks down the road, the Vikings have an excellent chance to be tied for first place with the Packers, because the Vikings, if they can get a win over Denver, get to 8-3, while the Packers are off this week, and then the Packers would have a half-game lead, then the Vikings are off next week while the Packers have to travel to San Francisco to play the 49ers. All of a sudden, if San Francisco beats Green Bay that day, then both teams are tied at 8-3, which is where the Vikings want to be going to the last 5 games and have Green Bay right in their sights.
It'll be fascinating. We know that. Thanks to Jeff. Thanks to Brandon Morton, our producer. We'll be back next week to tell you what happened in the Broncos game. I'll be at the game on Sunday, and we'll hit a lot of NFL topics as the Vikings head into the bye week. Thanks to all of our listeners, all of our sponsors. Please check out TalkNorth.com or follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod.